Hello, beautiful people. In this video, we are going to discuss and know what it takes to become a DevOps engineer. Many folks out there are confused, not knowing how to start, what to do, and how to do it. Many of you start your DevOps career having various different backgrounds. So the starting point is different for all. You may be starting as a network engineer, a system admin, a software engineer, a developer, or even an automation engineer. Or you may not even have an IT background. Or you may be transitioning from one career to another career path with little or no knowledge. Let me elaborate on the last point. Some people want to get into DevOps having very little or no IT background. Now, this is very tricky because DevOps is not an entry-level profession in IT. So it is not the first thing you learn when you want to get into the IT field. Why do I say so? I'll explain by definition. DevOps is all about automating processes in software development and deployment lifecycle that make people that they have done things manually before. So before you automate all these that are done manually, you first of all need to understand what those processes and tasks are in the first place. If you don't understand those things, you won't know what you're automating, and you will not even know what DevOps or what is the need for this DevOps. So DevOps is a set of practices and culture that is aimed to improve collaboration between the software development and the IT operation. So looking at DevOps, the primary goal when it comes to DevOps is to shorten the development lifecycle while delivering a high quality software reliably and frequently. So from definition, DevOps is a combination of two terms or two teams. DevOps is a combination of development and operation. That is two teams. We have the development team and we have the operational team. So I am going to break down what we need to know about DevOps, coming from the definition, looking at the functionality or responsibilities of the development team and the responsibilities of the operational team. Now let's start with the responsibilities or functionalities of the development team. The development team is responsible for designing the structure and the component of the software application. That is, they actually design the software, they write and maintain the code for the application. They do what is known as a system testing, which is actually used to identify and fix the bugs or issues. They also manage the code changes and the collaboration. And the last point but not the least, they also integrate these code changes frequently into a shared storehouse or a shared repository. Now, let's look at the functionalities of the operational team. The first part of the operational team, they are responsible to manage the hardware, the software, the network resources required to run the applications. So they make sure the infrastructure is reliable, it is secure, and it is scalable. It can be horizontal or vertical scalability. They are also responsible for deploying this application to the production environment, right? And the last but not the least, under the operational team, is that they also help to monitor these applications. So there is continuous monitoring of these applications and also the infrastructure. Why? For availability and also for performance. Now, based on the different responsibilities and functionalities of the two teams, now let's look at these responsibilities and the tools that are needed based on these responsibilities. So DevOps is all about you first of all understanding the concept. Once you understand the concept, then it is easier for you now to study the DevOps, because you are studying the DevOps based on the knowledge you have, based on the responsibility, based on who is a DevOps engineer, what is DevOps all about. So now let's talk about the tools and what you need to know to become a DevOps engineer. Have this in mind. As a DevOps engineer, you will not be programming the application. But as you work closely with the development team to improve and automate the tasks for them, you also need to understand the concept of how developers work and collaborate. You see, then you also need to understand what workflow they use to manage the code changes. And lastly, you need to know how the applications are configured, how these applications are built, and also how these applications are tested. So as a DevOps engineer, my friends, you are actually responsible for preparing and maintaining the infrastructure. Preparing and maintaining the infrastructure. When we talk about preparing and maintaining the infrastructure, we talk about the platform or the servers on which the application is deployed. So here, you need to know the basics of how to administer a server and how to install the different tools that are needed for this application to run. Now, looking at the corporate environment, since most servers use Linux operating system, most companies function with the Linux operating system, you need to know and feel comfortable about Linux, most especially the command line interface. That is, you need to understand the share command, you need to understand the Linux file system and permission, you need to know how the SSH key is being generated, that is the SSH key management. Then you also need to understand virtualization. We'll talk about virtualization in a short. Also, what do you need to know as a DevOps engineer after the infrastructure? Still in the infrastructure, you need to know the basics of networking and security as well in order to configure this infrastructure. What do you need to know at the level of networking and security? You need to know how the firewall is configured to secure access. You need to understand how IP address, port, and the DNS works. Then you need to understand about the load balancer. Load balancer is just used to load balance the traffic of the application. So you see, so you need the knowledge base of Linux, you need the knowledge base of networking and security. But to be on the safe side, keynote, and to draw a line between the development team and the IT operation, you don't need to be a system admin. So no advanced knowledge is needed at the level of this Linux or the network or security side. No advanced knowledge is needed. So you just need to know the basics. You just need to know the basics. I will also say you need to have a knowledge basics on virtualization, because most of these infrastructures, they are built in the form of virtual machines, and these virtual machines are running on top of a defined platform. For example, we have the Oracle VirtualBox, we have the VMware, we have the hypervisor. These virtualization platforms, they are going to be used now to build virtual machines for the applications to run on it. So you need to have a knowledge base on virtualization. But as of now, containers, right? Containers have become the new standard of software packaging. So you would need to know how to run an application as a container. So in all this, you will need to generally understand the concept of virtualization. You need to understand the concept of containerization. You need to know how to manage container applications on servers. As of today, Docker is by far the most popular container technology. Mentioning container by definition, container is just a standard unit of software that packages up code and all its dependencies so that the application run quickly and reliably on your environment or any computing environment. That is Docker. Still under Docker, so you see, we are breaking down these tools based on the different responsibilities of the two teams. Now, still under Docker, still under containers, since containers are popular and easy to use, many companies are running hundreds or thousands of containers on multiple servers. This means these containers need to be managed somehow, right? So for this manage, there are what is known as container orchestration tools, like we have the Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is actually used to automate the deployment, the scaling, and the management of containerized application. So Kubernetes is the most popular container orchestration tool as of now. So we have Linux, base knowledge on Linux, base knowledge on networking and security, base knowledge at the level of the concept of virtualization, concept of containerization, how to manage containerization, and under containerization we mentioned Docker, and how to manage this Docker we have mentioned Kubernetes. So in the course of talking about one of the responsibilities of the dev team, that is to integrate code changes frequently into a shared repository. So I will also talk about what you need to know when it comes to your roadmap in DevOps to become a DevOps engineer. It's about the CI/CD pipeline, where CI/CD is the kind of the heart of DevOps. So in DevOps, all code changes like new features or issues fixed need to be integrated in the existing application and deployed for the end user continuously and in an automated way. So when it comes to CI/CD, there are many platforms that can be used to integrate all these applications, to integrate the new features, the changes from the code in respect to the new features, in respect to the issues that have been fixed. So there are a lot of platforms, but the most popular as of now is known as the Jenkins. But out of the Jenkins, we have other popular tools that are also used. We have the GitHub Action, there is GitLab CI/CD, there is Azure DevOps, and there is also AWS Code Pipeline. So the skills you need to learn when it comes to CI/CD, you need to know how to set up the CI/CD server. You need to integrate the code repository to trigger pipeline automatically. You need to build tools and package manager tools to execute the test and the package application. You also need to know how to configure the artifact repositories, like we have the npm, there is the Nexus, and integrate with the pipeline. So all about CI/CD is about testing the code, building the images, push the code to the repository, then deploy now this code to the development environment, then deploy to the testing environment. Once it has been deployed to the testing environment for it to be tested, now it is being deployed to the production environment. So that is how becoming a DevOps engineer, you break down all the different functionalities. We are not done yet. Nowadays, many companies are using virtual infrastructures on the cloud. So instead of managing their own infrastructures, they are now migrating to the cloud for their infrastructures to be managed. We have different cloud providers. We have Azure, we have AWS, we have GCP. Azure is the most powerful as of now and most widely used infrastructure as a service platform, but also a difficult one. These are just infrastructure as a service platform which actually offers a wide range of additional services, like we have the backup, we have security, we have the load balancer, as I mentioned. So you need to learn the service of that specific platform and learn how to manage the whole deployment infrastructure on it. For example, let's focus on Azure. You need to learn about the Microsoft Entra ID. Previously was known as the Azure Active Directory, which is actually used to manage users and their permissions. Then we have the virtual network, which is just your private network. Then we have the virtual machine, which is actually your virtual servers. So one good thing with the cloud providers is that when you have a knowledge base on one, then it is very easiest to learn another provider. Be it if you have a knowledge base in Azure, you can easily learn AWS. If you have a knowledge base in AWS, then you can easily learn GCP. That is for Google. Azure is for Microsoft, and AWS is for Amazon. So one other responsibility of the operational team, just to bring out another tool you need to use, is to continuously monitor application. Once software is in production, it's supposed to be monitored. Why is it monitored? It is being monitored in order to track the performance, the disaster problems in your infrastructure, and the application. So under monitoring, there are different monitoring tools that you need to know. For example, we have the Prometheus. Prometheus is a popular monitoring and alerting tool. Then we have the Grafana. Grafana, it is for analytics and interactive visualization tool. We also have Splunk. Splunk is at the level of security, at the level of logs to monitor all those things. So you need to understand how systems can collect and aggregate data with the goal of using it to troubleshoot. That is why you monitor. Now, let's break down the troubleshoot. Troubleshoot is just problem solving. Identify a problem, then bring out a solution to that problem. That is troubleshooting. Now, we are gradually getting out the idea to become a DevOps engineer. Now, still at the level of infrastructure, there is something known as infrastructure as code. Many of you out there, you have heard about infrastructure as code. So you know manually creating and maintaining infrastructure is time consuming and error prone. So in DevOps, we want to automate as much as possible, and that is where infrastructure as code comes into play. So under infrastructure as code, I'm going to break it down into two. We have what is known as the infrastructure provisioning, and we have what is known as the configuration management. So under infrastructure provisioning, we have Terraform, right? So Terraform is the most popular infrastructure provisioning tool that is being used for this automation. Then under configuration management, we have Ansible as the most popular. We have Chef, we have Puppet, we have SourceTech, but the most popular as of now is known as the Ansible. So that is under infrastructure as code. So Terraform, have it in mind. Ansible, have it in mind. Then under monitoring, there is Prometheus, there is Grafana, there is Splunk. So let's move to the next to wrap it up. So as a DevOps engineer, you are going to work closely with developers and system admins. Why? To automate the tasks for deployment or for development and operation. So you will need to know something. What you need to know is to have a knowledge base on how to write script and how to make small applications to automate them. For that, you need to have a knowledge about scripting or a basic programming skill. It could be in two forms. We have the operating system specific scripting language, and we have the Bash and the PowerShell. Then for operating system independent language that you need to know, there is Python. So you need a knowledge base on either Bash or PowerShell scripting, or you have a knowledge base on Python. So Python is the most popular OS independent language as of now that you need to know. Then in the course of the discussion, as one of the responsibilities, we spoke about code changes. Now we are going to bring out a tool that you need to know when it comes to code changes. So under code changes, you need to learn Git. So Git is the most popular and widely used version control tool. So this Git is just a command line interface tool where it is actually being installed on your system locally, where it enables the tracking of changes in the source code, and it also helps to enable better communication, better collaboration. So in summary, pointing out all the different tools you need to know to become a DevOps engineer. Remember, I said it is not an entry-level profession when it comes to IT. It is already advanced and already a path you're supposed to embark into. So you're supposed to be guided not to make mistakes a lot of folks are making out there. So you first of all need to have the concept base on what DevOps is all about. DevOps is just two words blending together, where you can etymologically break them out, and then have an understanding of the dev. Then you have an understanding of the operation, as we just did. So a summary of the different tools we made mention that you need to know. We spoke about infrastructure. So you need to have a knowledge on Linux, networking, security, not in depth, not advanced, but just the basics. Then we spoke about having a knowledge base at the level of the concept of virtualization, where we have different platforms. It can be VMware Workstation, it can be the Oracle VirtualBox, it can be Hyper-V. Then we have containerization, where you need to know Docker. Then for you now to manage the containers, if hundreds or thousands of containers are being deployed, then you need to know how to manage it. Now we talk about orchestration. There comes Kubernetes. So you have Docker, you have Kubernetes. Then at the level of the virtual infrastructures in the cloud, there are different cloud providers. We have Azure, we have AWS, we have GCP. So to become a good, skillful DevOps engineer, you need to be knowledge based, either Azure, AWS, or GCP. Now, out of the cloud, we made mention of CI/CD pipeline, where there is continuous integration and continuous delivery. And we spoke of Jenkins as the most popular. We also have Azure DevOps, we have GitHub Action, we have GitLab CI/CD, and there's also AWS Code Pipeline. Then, under infrastructure as code, those things that were done manually, they are now automated. You need to know Terraform and Ansible. Terraform falls under the infrastructure provisioning, Ansible falls under configuration management. So you need to know. Then at the level of code changes, you need to know Git, which is going to help you to track the code changes and also help for collaboration. Then under monitoring, you need to know either Prometheus, Grafana, or Splunk. There's also Datadog. So these are tools that you need to have a knowledge base for you to start your career to become a DevOps engineer. To become a DevOps engineer, it is a learning till death or learning to retirement, because tools are coming out every day. So as you keep using these tools, it keeps coming out. So you need to learning, keep doing your research to know the new tools that are out and how to learn them and how to integrate them into your system or your company or even your business. So all these mentioned tools is what you need to become a DevOps engineer. The good thing with all these is that there's a program coming up November the 16th. It's going to run for 6 months. And the beautiful thing about the program is classes are every Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays as from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Then on Sundays, it's from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So this program, it's a boot camp that is going to cover the entire DevOps tool, not just becoming a DevOps engineer, but you're also going to be trained to become an Azure engineer, an Azure cloud engineer, an Azure administrator, a site reliability engineer, a DevOps engineer, a cloud engineer, a Docker engineer, a Terraform engineer. So you're going to be trained in you're going to have different skills that will make you more valuable and be needed by all these top companies. So this program is going to run for 6 months. It's starting again on the 16th of November. So either you are transitioning from a nursing background, chemical engineering background, or whatever background you are coming from, accountant, banker, lawyer, and you're coming to IT, there is a place for you. Don't be asking yourself questions. Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? We are here to guide you. Our program covers everything at the level of infrastructure, the Linux, up to the level of source code changes. So you'll be guided and you'll be mentored, you'll be directed, you'll be having live projects to show you how the environment looks like, what you need to do. All those things are covered in this program. So to reach out for more insight about the program, you can send an email, you can send a text or an SMS through this phone number, or you can reach out to us through an email by using the email address, or you can go to our website on the screen and you enroll for this program, and someone in the team is going to reach out to you, is going to guide you on what you need and how to go about this program. So this program is just out there to help the community, those that are struggling to transition from one career. This program is for you. Those that are into IT, be it in the networking field, the system admin, software, and they're trying to become DevOps engineer, site reliability engineer, platform engineer, and you don't know how to start, this place is for you. The Yandtech community, it is for you. It's a community for all. Nobody is excluded. It's a community for all. So reach out to us and we will be there to help you to make a path in IT. Stay blessed. God loves you.